All right, I think it's 5:30. So let's call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order. As chair of the Board of Public Works, I find that due to the state of the emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom through the city's IT department for this electronic meeting. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-436-2866. The meeting ID is 955-3514-5238. And the passcode is 488244. This meeting is being recorded and will be shown on channel 16 for public viewing at a later time. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and at the Department of Public Works Administration Building at 9 Riverside Drive. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting via phone, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. Or via Zoom, same thing. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the phone number mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, they should also state why they are not physically present for the meeting and whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches.
I'm here and I'm socially distanced because of the pandemic, and I am alone in the room.
Commissioner Tease.
Present. I'm participating remotely because of the pandemic. I'm alone in my home office and the door's closed.
Commissioner Pappas.
I'm in my home, but in a room by myself with the door closed, and I am social distancing due to the coronavirus.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, I am present, sitting in my office by myself. I am as well social distancing due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Commissioner Shoneman.
I'm here. I'm attending remotely due to the governor's emergency order, and I'm alone in this room in my house.
All right, everyone is present. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Any questions, comments? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches.
Yes.
Commissioner Tease.
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas.
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the last meeting of the Board of Public Works on November 19. Commissioner Tease.
I have to defer. I'm experiencing a technical difficulty at the moment, but I'll be able to get my package up shortly.
Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of November 19th, 2020.
Discussion, corrections? Please call the roll.
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the November 23rd meeting. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the minutes of the Special Board of Public Works meeting of November 23rd, 2020.
Discussion? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is the motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of December 4. Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the minutes of the Special Board of Public Works meeting of December 4th, 2020.
Anyone have discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes, and I'm back online.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the board?
Laura Cahoon.
Please go ahead.
My name is Laura Cahoon. I live at 30 Greenwood Drive. I'm asking the Board of Public Works to not approve the ordinance to increase the sewer usage fee rates because since 2018 through 2020, the taxpayers have paid $15 million for the sewer rehabilitation. Why then is the city asking for an additional $30 million? This is sad because a lot of taxpayers cannot afford to pay this 35% increase. So I'm asking the board to reject it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public? Is there any other member of the public who would like to comment on anything?
Lori Ortolano,
Please go ahead.
41 Berkeley Street. I just want to speak about the sewer potential fee increases. A couple of questions. I'd like to try and understand, the differences between usage and demand, and whether a property owner can really do anything to try and minimize the cost impact of these increases that are being proposed by practicing a better means of conservation. And I don't really fully understand the differences between those fees, but I'd like to try and understand that. And also, I know some municipalities allow a meter to be put in for sprinkler systems. So when you water, I think the water usage that is just lawn watering counts as your sewer usage or into your bill. But it's really not used the same way as in-house equipment or even gray water that's being generated. So the processing or treatment of it is completely different. And do we allow separate metering for sprinkler systems and charge a reduced rate for those? And I don't even know what a meter costs, so I'm not certain how prohibitive it is, but I just happen to know that some municipalities, I believe, allow that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other members of the public? All right, we have an aldermanic referral. That's item A under aldermanic referral. Is Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve, provide a positive recommendation to the Board of Aldermen for ordinance 0-20-040, increasing sewer user fee rates and charges.
Is there any discussion from commissioners on this?
I was going to I've got several questions, so I wasn't sure if anyone else wanted to go first.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Pappas.
Okay. I do have several questions, but I mean, you know, due to the increases we're asking for, we use acronyms a lot that a lot of folks may not be aware of. So if we can just explain what our WRF stands for, what CMOM stands for, because in my questions I use those. I'm using those acronyms, and I don't want to confuse folks.
Director Photo, can you answer that? What the meaning of the acronyms?
Yes, so I was actually, Frank Ayot's also on the line, our consultant. The WRF is basically the equivalent of our SERF. It's our Equipment Reserve Fund for wastewater. And the CMOM is capacity management. Frank, you want to, the rest of the, we can't hear you. Frank, you're on, still mute.
If he just holds down
Dave.
his space bar, he should be able to speak.
Or Dave.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, it's Capacity Management, Operation, and Maintenance Program.
Yeah.
The CMON.
And that's being driven largely by our NPDES permit, our National Pollutant Discharge Permit.
Okay, and then I know what WRF stands. I know what WRF means, but if someone can just explain what, because if I have questions that use the acronyms, I don't want to confuse people.
It's the Wastewater Equipment Reserve Fund.
Oh, okay, all right. You've maybe perhaps someone already said. Okay, all right. I knew that. Okay, so I have several questions, but I'm going to start out with a statement. It was my understanding that every single year we were supposed to have a presentation on where wastewater is. We it wasn't that we necessarily had to raise the rates every year. And I will say, one of my first years on the board, it was before our current CFO was appointed. We had a gentleman from Vermont, and I think Mayor Loza was brand new. I hope that you guys will give me a little bit of leeway here for history. And the city of Nashua had decided to go to a CSO kind of system rather than so that rather than separating the source, which was much more expensive. I think a lot of times when we see what Manchester charges and that sort of thing, our charges are lower. But we had decided to treat our wastewater instead of separating the sewer pipes out from wastewater. And so I think when we compare our wastewater fees to fees of other municipalities that have chosen to separate those lines, I'm not quite so sure that is a great way for us to determine what our cost should be. But it was my understanding that we were supposed to visit this every year. Now, when I talked about this, one of the first years I was on the board, I think it might have been Mayor Lozo's first year in office, and it was right after the Streeter administration, where they had cut the sewer rates, and then they hadn't checked the amount of money that was in the funds, and we had these expensive projects. So we were really running low on money. So we really did have to increase sewer fees quite a bit. But we were careful not to really give folks sticker shock. But I will say that when we did increase them, I mean, they weren't anywhere near the increases that we're asking here. I think it's 20% and 15% So 35% in 2 years. We had an informational session. I want to say it was like a 2-hour-long meeting. So at the end of that, I was able to understand, okay, these are our long-term projects. These are our short-term projects. And this is really what we should have in savings. And we got a really clear picture. And it was a dire picture. But I want to say we came up with like maybe a 5-year plan, and we did have to raise the rates quite a bit, and I wasn't happy with it, but I did it because it was quite obvious to me that we didn't have any other choice. But my part of my problem here is that I feel like we haven't gotten a picture. I want to say since 2016, I may be wrong, and that's an awfully long time. Now, I know some would argue that these rates, whatever they charge, it doesn't hit someone's budget that much. It's only 4 times a year. It will only affect them, minimally. But the fact is, during this global pandemic, folks have lost their job. Rents are going up, and for individual homeowners, when we hear about people showing up in food lines that normally wouldn't, even though we say this isn't that much money, I feel like groceries aren't a huge part of my budget, but for folks who are hurting, it can be. And when you think in terms of that rents may go up if landlords choose to charge more. Other landlords may eat the cost, but some landlords who do renting for a living may not be able to afford to do so. So that was my statement, and I have a couple of specific questions, and I hope that they're clear. So the first one is, how is the wastewater demand charge based on meter size, and how is it related to wastewater operations?
Can our consultant answer that, please? Or Dave, Mr. Boucher, one. Is the consultant on the call? Is the consultant on the call?
He is. Frank, you're still, for some reason, we can't hear you, and I'm not sure why.
I don't know if he might want to call in as well as be on video on his cell phone.
Yeah, can you call in on your cell phone, Frank? Dave, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all or wait for Frank.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll have to get the second part of the question. The part of the question about meter size and that, I don't know what drives the cost of the meter size, if the city has a replacement cost factored in or maintenance costs factored in. But meter size is based on size of building, number of people if it's an apartment building, industry, or single or 2-person residential unit.
Okay.
What was the second part of the question?
Well, actually, that was the second part. And the first part of the question is, how is the wastewater demand charge based on the size of water meter size related to our operations? I don't know if I'm asking that in too complicated of a way. So in other words, we have meter sizes, and if you have a 6-unit building, that's going to be a different, certainly. And when we talk, we're talking about our Pennachuck meters, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So, obviously if you have a 6-unit or 8-unit apartment building, then that the water meter size is going to be different. But I'm curious as to how the demand charge and is related to our wastewater operations.
It would be, I presume, that it's based off of the demand on the system. Obviously, if you have a 8-unit apartment, there's more demand on the facility itself, the pipelines in the street, There's more wear and tear in these neighborhoods with more water coming through, more waste coming through. And when it gets to the facility, obviously there's more water coming from a multi-person residential unit. When it comes to the facility, the more water you give to the facility, the more treatment it needs, the more chemical costs, and it takes more capacity away from the facility. So I think it's all based on those multiple things, multiple factors, is why there's a higher charge for the meter charge plus the, and that factors into the fee charge as well.
Okay. I remember a few years back, we had, there was a discussion and we made the decision to take, I want to say, somewhere between 2 and 3 employees that used to, I think used to be charged from the city budget from the street department. And we had decided to make a crew that were paid mostly from wastewater that were supposed to help the cleanup. What was, and so my understanding was that their, part of that their salary would be charged to the wastewater fee. How much, do we have a sense as to how much we've benefited from those positions?
I think Commissioner Pappas, what you're referring to is at one point we had moved collection systems over to the street department for a period of time, and that's since been moved back to wastewater collection. The collection systems crew is in wastewater now. I think that may be what you're referring to.
Okay, but all right, because I thought initially they were paid through the street department funds.
No, they were always paid through wastewater. We had just moved it. We had tried something a little bit different and decided that it worked better to have that crew in the wastewater department.
Okay. So it looks like our increase is mainly due to debt sewer rehab. It looks like 30 million, and for the CMOM 5.2, and then equipment 17. Is there a report or study in the 5-year plan for our sewer rehab? It just seems like we spent a lot of money previously that was appropriated for CMOM.
Carolyn O'Connor actually is on the line, and there was a rate study that was done by Financial Services that details all of that information that's needed. But I also want to add that this is really being driven largely by our permits, 2 of which we have not even been issued. So we've been working with the EPA on these permits and the requirements of those permits. And so that's the challenge really of trying to determine what the rates will need to be. And that could evolve over the next 5 years, because again, we don't have those permits yet. One is an MS4 permit, another one is our pollutant discharge permit. And certain things such as stricter regulations for our discharge permit for phosphorus. We now will have to build a facility to treat phosphorus in order to meet our permit. That and also operational expenses are really what is driving this. So it's not a function really of, geez, we'd like to have more money in reserve. It's a function of having to be able to meet those new permits, which again we haven't even been issued yet. We also have a consent decree that we're working through, that we're currently testing to see how it works, that you mentioned earlier, Commissioner Pappas. All of the CSO programs that we've put into place just to really determine the effectiveness of that and what next steps might be. That's going to also play in to the user fees. So this is right now is our best guess, but these are things that we need to be able to continue to operate our plant and also to be able to meet the requirements of our permit. So I want everybody to understand that. And I also want to mention that yes, 20 and 15% do sound like a lot, But I do want to put that in perspective, in that the quarterly increase for 2021 will be $15.83, and for 2022 will be $14.25. So, I think the percentages sound worse than the actual dollar amounts. And these are increases that are needed, again, to be able to. This is a very expensive plant to run, and it's very highly regulated. And these are the things that we need to be able to continue to operate our treatment plant. These are not things that are frivolous or nice haves. These are things that are absolutely required. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay. Is the WRF plan not adequate if we have to fund equipment outside of this plan?
This isn't for funding equipment, Commissioner Pappas. The WRF plan is updated yearly, but this isn't equipment that we're funding necessarily. WRF is something that we need to fund as part of certainly as part of the plant, but there are a number of other things that are factoring in, like the phosphorus, like the CMOM program, and other things that are requirements of the permits that will be issued in the very near future.
Okay. And again, I guess my final comment would just to repeat, it's my understanding that by ordinance, we're supposed to visit this stuff. We used to do it in July, but apparently somehow it was moved to after elections. But once a year, just to visit this, so that we know. I mean, I feel like I've been on the receiving end of having to do really high increases because we weren't paying attention to what our money situation was. And I would certainly beg the chair of the board that every year in July we visit this, because that in the past that was historically when we did it. So those are my questions and comments. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else have comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
It's,
Commissioner Tees, right?
Yes, thank you. So a couple questions. I appreciate Director Photo putting into perspective the percentages, because on their face, that is a very large percentage increase. I don't want to belittle the dollar amount. I mean, every dollar counts these days, but thank you for giving perspective. Director, could you share what the historical increases have been? And then, given all the work that's being done now, do we have any sense in what the work that will need to be done to the infrastructure over the next 5 or 10 years, what that might be? And are we going to be faced with similar larger increases, in a couple of years, or is this kind of a one-time boost to fund the infrastructure improvement? I'd like some perspective on that, please.
I do not have with me, Commissioner Tees, the historical increases. We certainly could get that to the board, though. That's not a problem. And as far as increases in the future, I would expect we'll need increases in the future. The EPA continues to create more and more stringent regulations for wastewater treatment plants. So I do expect that. And we certainly, to Commissioner Pappas's point, we can give regular updates. I don't right now. We're still waiting for our permits to be issued. So there could be additional requirements that will be placed upon us. And I don't necessarily have the answer to that. I also don't have the answer to our consent decree, what EPA will require. We're still negotiating through that and trying to close that out. We're hoping that we will have, once wet weather is running efficiently, which should happen here in the next month or two. We hope at that point our whole CSO program will be working pretty efficiently, and there'll be minimal work left to do, but we won't know the answer of that until we can test the whole program. So there are a lot of things that we just really need to see how they play out. But we're monitoring everything very closely. We're working very closely with EPA, and we're trying to keep the requirements to a minimum to the best of our ability. But this isn't something that's only affecting Nashua. This is affecting communities all throughout New England.
What,
So-
I appreciate that last piece. And again, this is a federal mandate. This is not our desire to do something. We need to comply.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Thank you.
correct.
No further questions.
The only one other thing I would add too is that our rates are still much lower than surrounding communities, even with the increases, and we're well under the New Hampshire state average. So I think that's good news for our ratepayers as well.
There was a question about whether any resident can separately, get a meter and meter their summer usage, because some of the water that many people use in the summertime does not go to the sewer system, but instead to a garden or a yard or something like that.
So the demand charge is actually based on winter demand, not on summer demand, for that very reason, Mayor. So that would not be taken into account.
Can someone get a meter? Can someone get a meter and use that meter to just determine how much goes into the sewage system?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, maybe we should look into that.
Excuse me, it's Carolyn O'Connor, the finance
Yeah.
manager. A meter's not necessary. The city bills their volume, the volumetric use on the winter months. So it's the 6 months towards winter, so they don't bill on the usage during the summer.
Oh, they bill on winter usage?
Yes.
Okay.
That's to allow so the residents don't have to pay the extra to have the meter put in.
All right. Any other commissioners have questions or comments? I don't hear anyone.
Oops. I have a couple of questions.
Commissioner Schoeneman.
Looking at the quarterly and monthly charges for the 3 years of increases, what is the average meter size that a single family home is going to have? So the meter sizes range from 0.625 inches to 6+. And where does a single family home fall in that gradient?
Can someone answer that question? How about Mr. Boucher, the consultant?
Yeah, Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. Your standard resident meter size would be under a 1-inch meter. So if you're looking at your list, it would be the first two for a residential.
Okay.
That would be like a single family or a duplex.
Okay. And Ms. Ortolano's other question about conservation, personal conservation, is there anything that a resident can do to help defray the cost of these, or is it just going to be their bill every month, every quarter?
I think there's water conservation things you can do to minimize the amount of usage, water that goes through the meter. I know some of the things we used to put out there was, the standard stuff, like when you're showering, wet your body, wash your hair, lather up with the water off and then rinse off after. Don't leave the water running while you're brushing your teeth, or fill a sink with water, hot water with a pan to do your dishes, and rather than letting the water run continuously. So small things like that, minimizing the usage of water in the house.
There's also, I might add, stuff for your toilet that you can actually use,
And who is
to
this
take up
speaking?
volume.
Who is this speaking?
I'm sorry, this is the consultant, Frank Ayotte from Hazen and Sawyer.
Okay,
I just
go
might
ahead.
add, there's other items such as being able to take up some of the volume in your water tank of your toilet. That can save on the amount of fill up on the tank, but still allow you to flush the toilet properly. Dave mentioned the water savers. There are inserts too for showers on the shower head that'll provide you more of a finer spray and subsequent less gallonage down the drain while you shower. If shutting off the water between lathering and isn't preferable. So there are methods of conservation. We'll be happy to provide a list to the city if that's what they need.
Okay.
Commissioner Shoneman, anything else?
No.
All right, does any other commissioner have any questions or comments?
I just have one quick question for the consultant. When he mentioned about the toilet that you can still flush it, is it something that you purchase at like a Home Depot, or do you have a plumber put it in? What is it?
Yeah, it's really to take up volume. I think you can probably ask your plumber. Some of the more modern toilets as well have a double switch type system where it's flush. You can flush for number one and flush for number two, which requires more volume of water. But generally, your plumber may be able to provide I've seen it almost made of like plastic. It's almost like a tank insert that can take up some of that water volume.
What's it called?
I don't know if there's a specific name for it. I can provide a list. Let me see.
Because I think it might be helpful if this ordinance does pass, to maybe give a list of suggestions with specifics for folks when they get their wastewater bill.
Yeah, I'd be
Some
happy
may
to do it.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? And anything from our consultant or from Mr. Boucher? Any other questions that have been asked?
Just one more. I believe there was a question on traditional water rate usage. I think I had that in my slide on one of the last presentations I gave. And it was really over a 16-year period. It averaged out to only about a 2% increase in sewer volumetric charges for sewer services. And really, that's almost equivalent over the cost of living. So I think that was a question that was asked.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't hear any other comments or questions, although I can't see everybody on the screen. So you need to speak up if you have them. If there is nothing further, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
No.
Motion passes. Next item, and that would be, that's just a referral or to the Board of Aldermen who makes the real decision. The next item is Solid Waste Department. Item A, Commissioner Tease.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to apologize. I'm having bad internet connectivity, or not internet, but computer connectivity here, and my computer keeps crashing. So I'm opening up a new laptop, so I'd have to defer just again. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So Commissioner Shoneman.
Move to approve change order number 1 to the contract with ChemServe Environmental Analysts of Milford, New Hampshire for water quality testing and monitoring services at all of the City of Nashua landfill sites for the Solid Waste Department in the amount not to exceed $29,888. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund Solid Waste, Account Classification 55, Other Contracted Services.
Discussion? Well, could we get, is Mr. LaFleur here?
Yes, Mayor. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. This is our ChemServe environmental, as you just said, our water quality testing at all of our landfills. This was a 3-year contract, and this is the culmination of exceeding charges over the past 3 years that DES put upon us for PFOA, PFAS, and PFOA testing. We had to do extra testing that the state mandated. So this 29,000 is spread out over the 3 years. This is the funding that's needed to complete the 3-year contract.
Any questions, comments from the commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donchis,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes, and I'm back on the agenda. Thank you.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Tease, are you reconnected?
I'm good. I move to approve services from Sanborn Head and Associates, Inc. of Concord, New Hampshire in an amount of $30,000 to address the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services comments to the Type 1A permit application for the proposed Phase 4 secure landfill expansion. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste Activity Expansion Phase 3 and 4.
Just, Mr. LaFleur?
Yes, sir. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. This is from Sanborn Head and Associates. These are our consultants that are working on our Phase 4 permit that we're anticipating going through. We got we sent the permit in to DES. They sent back a whole bunch of questions about, what we want to do, how we want to build the landfill. So I have to have these Sanborn Head go over all these questions, answer them professionally for us so we can keep the permit moving forward. This won't be the last amount that we're going to be asking for. This is only for the first section. To complete the permit could cost up to another $200,000 with all the meetings and agendas that they're going to have to work with and to get this permit approved for our Phase 4 landfill.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments? Commissioners?
I have a question. Go ahead.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Commissioner
No,
Pappas.
I was going to say, Commissioner Shoneman, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Well, as you know, I'm new to the board. I'm new to a lot of things that happen and how things work in the city and the infrastructure. I am having trouble understanding why a letter can cost $30,000. Can you explain it a little better? Why that's such an expensive? I understand that you're trying to get the permit. I understand the purpose of it, but can you explain a little bit about how a letter can cost $70,000?
Well, the permit. These are for this is the letter answering I'm sorry, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. This is to answer the questions that DES sent back. So there's a lot of engineering that has to be done to do some calculations, do some do extra reviews to make sure that everything's complete. So it's $30,000, but it's a lot of engineering that's going to be completed to do this work. So it's a lot of hours of work for them.
And this is different from what was done just a few years ago in Phase 3.
Yes, this is to permit the Phase 4 landfill, which would give us 40+ years of airspace. So we're trying to permit this now so that the regulations don't change on us and we lose airspace.
Yeah.
Sure,
And-
Sheldon.
Yeah. It just must be my my inexperience with this sort of thing, but I really don't see how we can spend 30,000 to that's a lot of money for a letter.
Working with the DES is a very expensive endeavor for the city. When we were going for our permitting for phase 3 and reviewing and all the letter, the meetings and the public hearings and everything, it's well beyond the 30,000 that we're spending right now for these questions.
I'll just add to that too. Building a landfill is an extremely expensive proposition. We're fortunate that we have the space to be able to permit a phase 4 and secure the future of our waste stream for another 40 years or so. But there's a lot of engineering that goes into any landfill. So this is a completely different situation, and that will be filling between the existing landfills. So there's a lot of information that DES is asking for in terms of, the leachate, how is the leachate going to be collected? How is the liner going to be placed? And so our consultant works with DES to try to maximize the airspace for us so that we can get as much space as we can. So that takes a tremendous amount of engineering. So we almost expect that we're going to get a lot of tough questions from DES, and then Sanborn Head needs to go back and re-engineer some of those. Now, happy to have a workshop sometime to talk about everything that goes into building the landfill, but it's a very, very complex, very expensive process because, of course, we need to make sure that we're protecting the environment as well, and so that's why it's so costly.
Now, Commissioner Pappas also had, I think, a question, right?
Yeah, you know what? I think one of them was already, I'm just going to clarify, one of them was already answered. I have a couple of questions, and then right afterwards, after we vote on this, I just had a question from for Superintendent LaFleur that I got this week about recycling. So I just want to double check. So this is for phase 3 and 4. I asked how many years will it buy us? 40 years, and that's for phase 3 and 4. Is that correct?
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. No, this is just for phase 4 permitting. This is the only part. The funding's coming from the phase 3 and 4. I forget what they called it. This has nothing to do with phase 3. This is only permitting phase 4, which would give us 40 years airspace.
Okay, because it said expansion. Years. Yeah, because it just said expansion phase 3 and phase 4. That's why I asked. Okay.
Yep, that's the funding source where it's going to come from. But this part, this 30,000 that we're asking for, is just specifically for phase 4.
Okay, and then do you have a sense as to when this is going to be approved?
Well, no, this is a long process. After we get these questions answered to DES, they have a review period which they could take a year to do for the permit. And then after that, after DES approves it, then they have to do public hearings. We have to meet with the public, do all these other approvals, and then we get the final blessing of the permit. So this could be another year or two in the making.
Okay, but you think it should be done by 3 years tops?
We hope that it will be done in 3 years, unless there's for some unforeseen circumstances at DES where they're shorthanded. But yes, we're going for it.
Okay, and then once we have that approval in our hand, once we get it approved, if they change the rules,
we're grandfathered in. Once they approve it, we are.
Okay.
That's why we're doing it so early,
right
now,
gotcha.
before the regulations change.
Okay, all right, gotcha. So so those are my questions. So this will buy 40 years, and I will, after we vote on this, as I said, I had a question from a constituent, and then just for folks listening, just I find a lot of times we throw around acronyms and items that we're just so used to. Just just explain what airspace is and how we're able to get the best use of it at the landfill. What the steps we take are.
Sure. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. Airspace is the amount of, we do it by cubic yards. It's the amount of trash that we can fit in a cubic area of airspace. So if you take a bucket, there's only so much airspace in it, and we have to put as much trash or as much of any material in it as we can, and we have to compact it in, and we try to do the best we can with that. So we bought ourselves the big compactor, the cat compactor, and we roll our trash and we compact it as tight as we can to fit it in that specific area of space. So when we say airspace between the two landfills, the valley, that's what we're going to be filling. We calculate that, that's what the engineers do, is they take the volume area and they calculate how much airspace there is. So, and they calculate how much trash we should be able to fit into that area.
Okay, and that's why we buy the expensive compactors to smush the stuff down.
Exactly, to smush it in, to compact it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry. Any other questions or comments? I don't hear anyone. All right, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yeah.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
All right, we're on to, the motion passes. We're on to engineering.
Oh, can if
Go ahead.
No, if it's okay, I did have, so do we recycle metal items?
Yes.
Okay. I got it was actually, we have those Ring doorbells around, and I actually had a resident express a concern, and they had put a metal item into the recycling. They bought, they bought a cart, and for whatever reason it was rejected, and they showed the video of the item being thrown on the lawn. And I understand that we've really had to tighten up with what we allow and don't allow into recycling, and that was one of the concerns I had before. Before, we used to pick up when some people would separate their stuff by garbage bag because they thought they were doing the city a favor, and the stuff was kind of tossed on people's property, and I think that people kind of take exception to that. So whatever, I did think that we took metal items, but if we have an item and someone has either a recycle, they've invested the money in the recycle carts, that maybe people would be less offended if maybe we close the top of the cart and leave the item on top of it, so the person knows for whatever reason it wasn't accepted by recycling. Because I think that people get upset when stuff is just tossed on their property.
Yep, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. Yeah, I agree with you. It depends on what the item was. If it was a microwave or
Well, no, it was not.
Okay, well, there's specific guidelines of stuff that can go inside the recycling carts, and our employees have been told that if it's non-compliant, to leave it so we can contact the resident, or the resident can contact us and ask us why their cart wasn't picked up. If it was just one item, I don't have a problem with my employees taking it out, setting it along the side of the cart and dumping the cart. It's better than leaving the cart completely behind, and then the resident only has to take care of that one item that's not acceptable to be in the cart. I just hate leaving carts behind, or with acceptable recyclables in it, if it's only one item that's not acceptable.
Right. No, I fully understand that. But what I'm saying is to empty if they see the one item, they take it out, then they empty the stuff out, that rather than just toss the stuff on the front lawn, that maybe especially to close the lid the recycle cart and maybe put the item on top. I think it may offend people a little bit less. That's just a suggestion.
Okay, I'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
All right, thanks a whole lot.
Sorry, I was muted. Any other comments or questions on this item? Or no, this was just a general question, I'm sorry. Anything else on solid waste before we move on to engineering? All right, let's move on to engineering. We have item A, Commissioner Shoneman.
Move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permits and fees as submitted.
Any discussion? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Don,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve poll license petitions PSNH number 21-1554 and PSNH number 21-1539.
Any discussion or questions? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Don,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Hold on.
Commissioner Shoneman, did you vote? There was someone else.
I voted yes.
You voted. Okay. All right. All those, well, the motion passed. Item C under engineering. Commissioner Tease.
Sure. I move to consider a hardship request from Crimson Properties LLC to excavate in West Hollis Street and Wellesley Road for a 4-lot subdivision project at 599 West
Girl
Hollis
alley.
Road.
Good girl.
All right, there's a motion. Now, we are being, I believe, interrupted by someone who's on the call, but
Come
is
on.
not muted.
Let's go. Let's go.
This happened at the last meeting as well. I think we need to adopt a, director, please look into whether we can create a situation where there's a waiting room or something so that people extraneous to the meeting can't be interrupting this way.
Mayor, we can mute people. Would you like us to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Not the commissioners, but the other people who, they don't even know that they're on the call. I don't think.
I agreed.
Yeah. Maybe after public oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, after public comment, we should probably mute everyone else. All right, now where were we? We got the motion from, well, we passed item B, right? Yes. So now we're on to item C, which is Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to consider a hardship request from Crimson Properties LLC to excavate in West Hollis Street and Wellesley Road for a 4-lot subdivision project at 599 West Hollis Street.
All right. Is Mr. Hudson on the call?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So in your meeting packet, there is a letter from Hayner Swanson addressing this item. There was a 4-lot subdivision at 599 West Hollis Street that was recently approved by a planning board. So they have a number of driveways. There's a driveway on, or 2 driveways actually on West Hollis Street. One of them is existing, one proposed, and then there's driveways and utility work planned off of Wellesley Road. Both those roads are in moratorium, so the request is is to allow work in those. Wellesley Road will be reconstructed in accordance with the moratorium ordinances with the mill and the overlay covering the areas that are impacted. On West Hall Street, the proposal is to, since it's just a driveway tie-in, is to do the minimal milling overlap versus the whole roadway as part of our pilot program, which we set up at the last meeting. So they would build the driveway, mill 1 foot just to tie it in and not encroach into the traveled roadway. So that's the proposal. Tom Zajac of HSI is here, as well as Randy Termel of Crimson Properties, should you have any questions.
Commissioners? Any comments or questions?
I guess if nobody else will step in, I just have my same view that when we cut into a road, it does lower the life of the road, and that's why we have the moratorium. And I'm very appreciative that the city and the taxpayers of the city, that this mayor and then the taxpayers of the city have enjoyed having this very generous paving program. And I want it to last, so I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Tease.
Thank you. Mr. Hudson, can you share with us what the exact hardship is in this instance?
Sure, it would be delaying the construction of the new homes on the 3 lots that have been created. So Wellesley Road is 2018 paving, so that would expire in 2023. And West Hollis Street actually expires next year, but not until late in the season next year.
Okay.
And perhaps if desired, perhaps the applicant could speak more to the hardship that may create.
Is the applicant in the meeting?
Yes, Mr. Termel's on.
Could Mr. Termel, could we unmute him so in case he wants to answer?
I'm here, Randy Termel, Crimson Properties. I would also probably ask Tom Zajac to speak to that fact. Tom, are you available?
Yes, I'm here, Randy.
Okay, maybe you could walk us all through the thought process and tell everybody what our goal is.
Sure. For the record, my name is Tom Zajac. I'm a civil engineer with Hayner Swanson, 3 Congress Street here in Nashua. Here tonight on behalf of Randy and Crimson Properties. As Mr. Hudson mentioned, this 4-lot road frontage subdivision was approved earlier this year by the planning board. There are actually 2 homes on the property as it exists today. There's an existing single-family dwelling as well as a mobile home. Both of those will be removed. But in order to achieve what Mr. Termel is seeking, which is a 4-lot road frontage subdivision with conforming lots, we do need to provide utility services and driveway connections for these lots. And as Mr. Hudson mentioned, both streets that adjoin this property are currently under moratorium. So the hardship would be having to wait to provide those utility and driveway connections out into the street.
All right, thank you. Questions again or comments from the commissioners?
I'd like to ask, no, never mind, I've got the answer. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioners? If not, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
No.
Motion passes. On to item D. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the use of Daniel Webster Highway Traffic Corridor funds for a traffic engineering services contract with Vanessa and Associates, Inc. of Andover, Mass. in the amount of $7,000. Department 160 Admin and Engineering. Fund Trust, account category 53, Professional and Technical Services.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you again, Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So as this applicant went through the planning board process, this is BJ's refueling station, which is going to be located at 210 Daniel Webster Highway. As I went through the process, they evaluated the impacts of that development and have made mitigation for it. But there's some additional work we wanted them to do, some additional engineering study, which is looking at the left turn southbound on DW Highway to Adventure Way, which has been a problem because it fills up. It's not long enough and it fills up. And so as a longer term thing, we want to know how long that should be to plan for a future construction project. And there's some future developments in the area which probably contribute to that. So as part of that planning board process, we asked them to make a contribution towards that study. And they agreed to do that. So they'll be depositing the money for this item into the DW Highway Corridor Fund. And we're asking for approval to withdraw that for the purposes that we requested that they make the contribution. So there will be no taxpayer cost for this item, given that they're making the contribution that offsets the cost.
All right. Any commissioners?
If I may, so $7,000, is that the whole cost? Because you said that they'll be making a contribution towards. What is the whole cost of the traffic study?
Sorry, yeah, I shouldn't have used the word contribution. The $7,000 is the whole cost for what we're asking for. They made additional contributions. The next item is going to be another one, which I'll speak to when that comes. And then they also made a $33,000 contribution to the quarter fund in general, which was intended to be kind of their contribution towards a future left turn lane construction. So they made a few different contributions to try to help the city meet its needs in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Just a question for clarification. I'm happy this came before us, so we're informed about it, but it's less than $10,000. So did we have to approve this? I was just curious about that factor.
Sure. So the reasoning is the fact that the money's in the corridor fund and you guys are the agents to expend that, to approve the expenditures from that. Through the planning board process, it's not easy to create a new account to run something through, that corridor fund is set up. And this is work related to traffic improvements on the corridor. So we felt it was appropriate for simplicity, to have them contribute to the corridor and then request that the funding be withdrawn for these purposes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donchis,
Yes.
Commissioner Tees,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we have item E, Commissioner Tees.
Sure. I move to approve the use of Daniel Webster Highway Traffic Corridor funds for the purchase of a performance data package license from Coastal Traffic, Inc. to be used for the intersection of Daniel Webster Highway and Adventure Way in the amount of $3,200. Department 160 Admin Engineering, Fund Trust, account category 71 Equipment.
And Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So there is a camera up at that intersection right now that detects vehicles. So that's the purpose of it primarily. But the camera has capabilities of doing some additional things. This funding here is for a data performance module, which basically is you unlock a license, which allows it to do turning movement traffic counts on a continuous basis. Of course, that information is useful for us for tracking trends over time and seeing what the volumes actually are at intersections. It's better than a snapshot in time, which you might get from different counts and things. So I've brought before you before similar camera setups at other locations, and those sometimes we ask for this performance module if it's a high profile intersection that we want counts at, and sometimes we don't if that's not necessary. But these always have the capability to add that in later through purchasing this package, which is what we're trying to do at this location. And sorry, and again, this is a contribution that was made by the developer, so there's no cost to the taxpayers. This is just approval to withdraw the funds for the stated use.
Commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we have item F, an informational item. Does anybody have any questions about that? Comments? All right, we'll go on to the administration department, item A. Commissioner Shoneman.
Move to approve the proposed 2021 regular meeting dates for the Board of Public Works.
Anybody have any problems with the proposed dates? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We have informational items, the facility update, if there is anything new, and as well as the director's report. So I'll turn it over to the director.
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have any updates on the DPW facility. So we'll move right to the director's report. Diane, if you could pull that up for me.
If I can ask a quick question, do we have a closing date for the Burke Street facility?
It remains the same, Commissioner Pappas, the end of January.
Okay,
That
all right.
hasn't
All right.
changed.
I
Yeah.
thought it. Okay, I thought it was January. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry to interrupt. Thank you so
No,
much.
no problem at all. We're looking forward to that date.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's hope, keep our fingers.
That's being handled, obviously by economic development and Director Cummings. So, but that I'm told that it's still on target. So this first slide is SUR West making Main Street roadway repairs between West Hollis Street and Mulberry Street on November 16th, following sewer main replacement is part of our 2020 sewer rehabilitation project. The next is, again, as part of our 2020 sewer rehabilitation contract, SUR West constructed a custom catch basin inlet, and that is near Main Street at CVS. And that the custom nature of that was because of the existing structure and curb location. This is part of our carryover 2019 paving program work. The wearing course on East Hollis Street was installed by Brock's Industries subcontractor GMI on November 10th. Again, as part of our 2020 paving program, Sunshine Paving installed pavement markings on Birch Hill Drive and Officer James Roach Drive on December 4th. We were able to hold Santa in the park. I've been told we had over 200 kids show up, and they had a great time. On December 6th, everyone wore masks and kept their distance and had fun. Special thanks to Commissioner Shoneman and her family for volunteering at that event. Our annual downtown decorations are in place and hopefully making the city a little more festive for residents. We are having a virtual holiday home decorating contest with gift card prizes for the winners that can be found on our Park and Rec website. The deadline to submit a picture of your home is December 20th. And all pictures will be posted on Facebook. No addresses will be given for everyone to enjoy. I think we currently have about 10 submissions. This is a picture of sidewalk that had a sinkhole on Broad Street near Coliseum Ave. We replaced the sidewalk, and there's a retaining wall below the sidewalk that created the sinkhole. So we shored up the edge of the sidewalk and repaved it. And that work was done the first week of December. And at our wastewater treatment plant, as part of the solids removal process, we rely on polymer, which is a compound that helps to separate the liquid from the water. Here you see one of our mechanics making a repair to one of the 4 polymer pumps we have that feed the screw press. Solid waste employees collected over 1,200 tons of soft yard waste between November 1st and December 4th. Christmas trees will be picked up curbside between Monday, January 4th through Friday, January 15th. They should be placed curbside, not on snowbanks or frozen to the ground. And all lights, tinsel, stands, and ornaments must be removed.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
Sure.
please, go ahead.
Will we do it both weeks in a row?
Yes, it'll run from Monday, January 4th through Friday, January 15th.
Right. So if you're one of the early birds, you get it picked up the first time, and it's going to be on your regular trash day, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe that's sort of the idea, to put it out on your regular trash day, but that could change, Commissioner Pappas. We may do something a little bit different this year. The street department may actually be picking up trees, so it may not be actually on your trash day. But
Okay.
I would definitely put it out, and it will definitely, we will be going through all the routes and picking them up.
Right. Put it out, and if it snows, drag it somewhere in your yard where you can put it back out after it snows, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We're encouraging residents to recycle gift boxes and corrugated cardboard boxes. They can be flattened and recycled instead of putting them in your trash. Excess holiday trash and bags will also be picked up during the week after Christmas. The extra trash pickup will run from Saturday, December 26th through Thursday, December 31st. Please place your extra bags curbside, not again on snowbanks, and at least 3 feet from your trash barrel. And the Four Hills landfill will be closed on Friday, December 25th for Christmas Day. Curbside pickups for Friday routes will be delayed by 1 day that week. And then the same holds true for the new year. So we'll be closed on Friday, January 1st, and curbside pickups for Friday routes, again, will be delayed by 1 day. That's it. Any other questions?
Will the extra trash that people put out for after Christmas, will that be picked up on your regular trash day or not necessarily?
Yes. Good question, Commissioner Pappas. Yes, it will be picked up on your regular trash day. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. We're now to commissioners' comments. Do any of the commissioners have comments?
I do.
Commissioner Pappas.
It's been a very long, difficult year, and I would say, congratulations to the mayor for making it through COVID himself, and for dealing with city issues during this pandemic. And a shout out to Commissioner Moriarty for being able to provide his patient services during this tough time, when I'm sure that it's kind of a close one-on-one. Commissioner Tees for having started a community bank at a rather difficult time. And
to Commissioner Shoneman, as someone who has made lemonade out of lemons for this year, so this has been a very difficult year. So, just a hat tip to Commissioner Shoneman. She actually is a published writer. She's written a book, Too Many Pockets, and she's published. So I just thought that was a really neat thing to do with the extra time we've had during COVID. So
Where can we find the book? I hadn't heard anything about this.
Well, it's published. I think she's got, there's some kind of a website, and then also I think it's on Amazon.
It is.
Really?
Yep. You can
Yeah,
search, you can search my name, or
what's the name?
it's a children's book.
Children's book.
It's a children's picture book, and it's so close to real life in the Shoneman household that I almost had to publish it as nonfiction. But it's just a fun little book based on my husband and my son, and some quirky things that they do, and it's just a dream of mine to write. So,
well, congratulations.
That was fun.
Very good. So, what is the title again?
Too Many Pockets.
Mr. Mayor, Too Many Pockets, you can buy it on eBay for $20.99, and they guarantee delivery by Christmas Eve.
Really? Wow.
I didn't know. I'd have to go knocking on her door. I'm not one of those folks that can go into a computer or a phone that quickly to find answers like that.
Look it up on Amazon.
Yeah, it's available in ebook format as well, which I don't think has the same charm, but some people like that.
Pretty cool.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you very much.
You're the first Public Works Commissioner I've ever heard of who's a published writer.
Yeah.
That's an accomplishment, I suppose. It was a lot of fun, a labor of love, and the illustrator is also a local Nashua resident. Her kids go to St. Chris's just down the road, so it was something that we always wanted to do.
And who is the illustrator?
Her name is Sarah Doherty. She's quite talented graphic artist.
I think Amazon beats eBay. I see it here for $15.95 on Amazon.
I will comment. I presume that the cover is probably your husband.
Yes, they might look a little familiar.
Yeah,
like I said, it's
nice
practically nonfiction. So
congratulations.
Yeah. Yes.
Pretty good.
Thank you. It's fun, and thank you, Commissioner Pappas, for mentioning it. I wouldn't have done so myself.
All right. Well,
autographed copies are available for small fees.
How much extra for the autograph?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, again, congratulations. Thank you, Commissioner Pappas. Any other commissioners' comments?
Yeah, I have a comment, Mr. Mayor, because I switched computers. I don't have immediate access to the package for the non-public section. So if you call on me, I'm going to be ill-prepared again.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Now we have some personnel items. There is at least some confidential information. So we would like to do this in non-public. Does someone have a motion to go into non-public session?
Believe it or not, I have access to that because it's on my phone. I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A3, 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Discussion? All right, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes, and we're going to go into non-public session. All right. Well, we've completed the items on the agenda. Commissioner Moriarty, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I apologize, but I move by roll call to seal the minutes of the Board of
Oh,
Public Works
sorry. Yes, go ahead, please.
of December 17, 2020, until such time as the majority of the board votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Let's call the roll.
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now, Commissioner Moriarty, I believe a motion to adjourn is in order.
Yes, Mayor, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us. Congratulations to Commissioner Shoneman on a notable
Thank you.
accomplishment, and I hope everybody has great holidays. And the
You
meeting
too.
is.
Likewise.
Take good care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas,
Bye.
everyone.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.